Lamya Essemlali, Director of Sea Shepherd France.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, everybody. So I have been dedicated my life to the protection of the ocean for about 20 years now. I've had the privilege, I would call that a privilege, to go defend whales in Antarctica against Japanese whalers. I've had confronted poachers with machetes in the beaches of Mayotte. I've been defending pirate whales against what they call the green dead rat, which is the largest slaughter of marine mammals in Europe. I've been working also on campaigns to free bluefin tuna in the Mediterranean Sea. So there is a whole list of these kinds of campaigns that in fact, illustrate the DNA of Sea Shepherd, which is about intervening. What I want to say today is really the opposite of a message that would be, hey, to be an activist, to make a difference, you have to do all these kind of things. It's not the idea. If I take my personal case, I was born far away from the ocean. I was born in the suburbs of Paris, in a very gloomy suburb. But I had the opportunity, the chance to go to Morocco every summer because both my parents were from Morocco. And this is where I've met with the ocean. What the ocean gave me as a child is a glance, hope, and the comprehension that life and the world was much, much more than this gloomy and depressing neighborhoods where I was growing up. And it's only years after that that I came to into the conscience that that ocean that was wild, that was curing my my sadness from being in such a sad environment. That ocean was actually threatened. It was dying because our species was considering it as everything that it's not, everything that it shouldn't be, which means like food source, energy source, landfill, everything but the essential. What's the essential? What's the ocean? And yes, we are in a garden, and I think it's a good illustration to show that, hey, even this is linked to the ocean, because this is the planet ocean, and we are the ocean. And I really like a sentence from Heathcote Williams. He's a British poet, and he says, seen from the sky, the planet is blue. Seen from the sky, the planet is not the human's territory, it's the whale's territory. And when I've met Paul Watson, who's the founder of Sea Shepherd, I've met him in Paris in 2005. And I've heard the philosophy that was behind the construction of Sea Shepherd. And this touched my heart, it touched my soul, because it felt so right. Basically, it can be summed up in one thing: if the ocean dies, we die. But when we think about that, we think only of biology. Yes, the ocean is the #1 climate regulator. Yes, it provides food to people who would die if they didn't have that. And by the way, it's not the majority of human population. The majority of human population is eating fish when they could like really easily do without it. And that's the main problem. There isn't a problem with fishing that feeds people who would starve without fish. Anyway, the thing is, if the ocean dies, we die. It's also our soul dies. I mean, if we destroy the essence of life and where we come from, we can't thrive, and we can't find what we are all desperately looking for. What are we all looking for? Peace. We are looking for inner peace. And this is why we are destroying this planet. Because we lost ourselves. And because we made ourselves an orphan species. Because by destroying the rest of the living world, we are destroying ourselves. And look at France, for example. France is one of the wealthiest countries in the world. And it's the #1 consumer of antidepressants. I don't know if you say that in English. And when you look at wealthy countries, do you have the impression that people are happier? I mean, no, we're not. And we keep looking for something that we can't find in overconsumption, in the destruction of life, the destruction of this planet. And the more we're looking and the more we're lost because we're not looking in the right place. And yet, you take anyone from any place in the world, doesn't matter how much money they make, where they're from, you put them in front of the ocean, a beautiful sunset or sunrise, this is universal beauty and this is universal happiness. So when we say if the ocean dies, we die, it's also that counts. Now, back to the action. Why I thought that Sea Shepherd was such an important tool? It's because I can sum up the strategy in one sentence. A whale being harpooned is not a story, but people risking their life to save that whale, it becomes a story. That's what made these actions so important. It's because by having people being ready to take so many risks, to go to the edge of the world, to save whales from being harpooned, it triggers reflection. Even from people who don't think about it, you know? And I think that's the power of that kind of actions. And then I believe that aside from all the television series and all the mediatization, what's important is the fact that it's inspiring. It's inspiring for people. And over all the conferences, all the interviews I've made, I always have the same question. Okay, but there is a problem. We are destroying the ocean, as we are destroying this planet. So what can we do? What can we do to solve the problem? And it's overwhelming when you look at it this way, right? Because I said before, overfishing, global warming, acidification of the ocean, plastic pollution, noise pollution, chemical pollution. I mean, you don't even know where to start. Although I will give you a tip. Overfishing is by far the biggest threat on the ocean. So the fish in our plates. But having said that, I think all these threats are the effects, the results of one common ground, one common thing, is the way we consider the ocean. The way we think of the ocean is the disconnection. The fact that we forgot. We forgot that we came from the ocean, that we are the ocean, and that we live with the ocean or will die with the ocean. And rebuilding that link is mandatory, and it's the priority. And all the effects aside will come if we change. This is called Change Now, right? So let's change that way we look at the ocean. And we'll stop justifying everything we do. Because right now we are very good at justifying everything, right? All the overexploitation of the ocean, we have some good reasons to explain that. Because if you consider it as a food source, energy source, yeah, you can justify what we do. So, I still have 10 minutes. Cool. So, changing that connection, how does it work? I would say that these actions that Sea Shepherd do trigger the thinking, the change of thinking, and then when you realize how bad is the situation and how harmful we are with ourselves, there are two ways of reacting. One is that it's very, very scary. And you're like, wow, we've gone so far, and this is like, whew, this is hopeless. This is overwhelming. So what should we do? Some people would just turn a blind eye on that because it's just too scary. And if you don't know what to do, then the only thing you have left is to run away. And Sea Shepherd is a tool that allows you not to run away. It's not necessarily for everyone. It has been for me. It has been a way of not being conscious, being aware, and not feeling fucking depressed, you know, and having, I wouldn't say hope, because it's not even about hope. It's about feeling that you are actually doing something that matters, that there is a sense, that this is meaning something, what you do with your life. you know, and this is like the most important thing. I think in the end, this is what we are all looking for. This is what we think happiness is. And so when people were telling me, wow, this is really hard what you do, and you are sacrificing out yourself, you know, you spend Christmas so far away from your family, taking risks. And because we got a lot of messages like that when we were in Antarctica. And this sounded so wrong. I was like, I don't feel like sacrificing myself for 1 second. I feel privileged because I'm getting the opportunity to make a difference. And again, you don't have to go to the edge of the world to do that. So when people tell me, again, that core question, what can we do? I answer, you are the best person to know what to do. Because what are you going to be the best at? What you love doing, you know? What interests you? What makes your heart vibrate, you know? What are you good at? And think how you can put that at the service of a greater cause. If you want to help the ocean, then use your best tool, which is what you know how to do, right? And there is, with imagination, you can do so many things. And when I look at people who get involved in Sea Shepherd, there's so many different characters, so many different profiles, so many different nationalities, so many different stories and personal paths. And they all came together because they want to make a difference, and they found a proper tool that allows them to make it. And when they go back home, then they can apply that to their everyday life. You know, some people change their job, and they find a way to put their everyday life in harmony with the way they feel. And what I really like about, I think the main power of someone like Paul Watson is that because he has done things that would seem impossible, because he has set an example, he has been inspiring for many others. And now, after 20 years of being involved in the movement he has created, my biggest satisfaction is when people come and tell me, hey, you have inspired me to do some things on my own. And this is like, I don't know how you call that in English, but you know, when you pass on the thing, you know, you pass it on. And when I do that, when people come to me and tell me that, I feel like, yeah, I fulfilled my mission. Aside from all the campaigns when you are actually saving lives, turtle lives, because you know that because you've been on that beach that night, these turtles, they went back to the ocean free instead of being turned into pieces, you know. This is like very, very practical. This is a very deep satisfaction. But on a larger picture, I know that the seeds that we put in people's hearts and inspire them to join the movement, whether it's Sea Shepherd or another movement, whether they create their own, this is really the biggest fulfillment. And this is very, very satisfying. And one word about France. Something that I didn't have in mind when I started Sea Shepherd France, because I've launched Sea Shepherd France when I came back from my first campaign in Antarctica, when I thought, okay, so we are at the other edge of the world, fighting against Japanese whalers. We are the only ones there, and we cannot stay the whole hunting season because we don't have enough money to pay for the fuel, so we have to go back, and for 2 months the whales are going to be alone with the poachers. And I was like, we cannot be blocked by money. We have to raise money. So I'm going back to France. I'm setting up Sea Shepherd France, and we're going to raise awareness towards the French population. And today, Sea Shepherd France is one of the biggest and strongest entity of Sea Shepherd. And it's the only one with Sea Shepherd Brazil that stood together with Paul Watson, the founder, who has been, by the way, evicted by the 4 directors of Sea Shepherd Global. That's a whole other story, and we don't have time for this. But this is also very interesting. So anyway, I came back to France, I set up Sea Shepherd France, and I had no idea about the importance that it had. And actually, I thought that we wouldn't go anywhere, because I thought the way of action, the direct action, is not in the French culture when it comes to the environment or saving the animals, right? So I thought people are going to think we are a bunch of crazy extremists, eco-terrorists, and we're just going to remain like really small. And actually, it didn't happen that way. On the contrary, we had such a big echo in the population. And at the same time, I realized how important it was, because France is the second largest marine territory in the world, about 11 million square meters of sea under the French jurisdiction. So just imagine the amount of responsibility we have, right? And at the same time, it struck me when we started doing the dolphin bycatch campaign, you know, all these thousands of dolphins being caught in the French coast by fishermen, because the fishing gear is not selective enough, not because they actually target them, but the result is the same, right? And I realized, because we thought, okay, we have to wake up people about what's happening with these dolphins in our doorstep. We cannot let that happen. That population is going extinct, and people don't even know about it. So we started to expose dead dolphins in cities, in the heart of cities. And I remember very well, in 2019, the very first exposition we made in La Rochelle, with the dolphins that we found dead, like really near the harbor. And people were looking at that dolphin and saying, we have no dolphins here. Where did this dolphin come from? This is a fake dolphin, by the way. That blood is ketchup. I swear we got that kind of answers. And not one or two people, like a lot of people. A lot. In La Rochelle, like by the sea. And I was like, okay, so we are coming from really, really far. Because how can we save dolphins when people don't even know that we have them? And I very often quote Éric Tabarly, who is a famous French navigator, because he was saying the problem is that for the French, the ocean is that thing they have in their back when they lay down their towel on the beach. We are disconnected. And if there is one nation that needs to reconnect with the ocean, it's the second largest marine territory. It's the French nation. And we have to set up an example. So, yeah, I think it begins there, and everything else will follow. So I would sum up, after everything we've done, everything we say, I would say that our main objective, my main mission, is to work on reconnecting people with the ocean. Because, again, everything else will follow. So I would just encourage you to rethink how you think of the ocean. If when you think of fish, you think in stocks, you think in tons, you think it's vegetable. Because when you say you're a vegetarian, they offer you a salmon sandwich, you know? Because, hey, but this says something, you know? Words do say something. So just, yeah, start there. Rethink that. And you will see that many, many things that seems normal to you will appear like really shocking, because you are getting closer to the truth, which is that we are the ocean, and that we are dependent on the ocean. And again, it's not only our bodies that will die if the ocean dies, but our souls. And I think it's as important, if not even more important. Thank you.